Hi everybody, in this video we're going to answer a type of percent word problem which I call a find the whole problem. So answer the following find the whole problem using all three methods. The three methods being the proportion strategy, the equation strategy, and the operation strategy. Now here's the problem. 80% of the pieces of fruit in a basket are tangerines. There are 40 tangerines in the basket. How many pieces of fruit are in the basket? So 80% means most of it. Okay, so 100% would mean everything. If 100% of the fruit in the basket was tangerines, then that means all the fruit in the basket would be tangerines. You can see I have a picture of a fruit basket over here. If, let's say, 50% of the fruit was tangerines, then that would mean half of the fruit was tangerines. If it said 0% of the fruit was tangerines, then that would mean that there are no tangerines in the basket. So we're told that 80% of the fruit in the basket are tangerines. So most of the fruit in the basket are tangerines, but not all of it. And we know that there are 40 tangerines in the basket, so we need to figure out how many pieces of fruit there are all together in the basket. What's the total number of fruit in the basket? Or as we're going to call it here, the whole. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so how many pieces of fruit are in the basket? So to answer this problem using the proportion strategy, we're going to write this proportion, which is the same thing that we would use for a find the part problem or find the percent of the whole problem. We're going to write part over whole equals percent over 100. Oops. Okay, and where should we put these numbers here? Well, 80%, there's the percent symbol. So that obviously goes over here where the word percent is. So that's going to go over 100. So let's put the number 80 over here. And that makes sense because a percent is literally just a fraction with the denominator being 100. So 80% literally means 80 over 100. In fact, the percent symbol is just a rearrangement of the digits 100. There you can see the 100. Okay, now where should we put the 40? 40 is not the whole number of fruit that's in the basket. That's what we're looking for. 40 is just the number of tangerines that are in the basket. So 40 is just part of what's in the basket. So we'll put the 40 in the numerator over here where it says part. And in the denominator, we will put x because we don't know the whole number of pieces of fruit in the basket yet. So now to solve this, we're going to cross multiply. We have 80x. 80 times x is 80x equals, and then 40 times 100 is 4,000. All right, and then finally to get the 80 away from the x, this is 80 times x, so we need to divide by 80, which is the inverse of multiplication, to get rid of that 80. We'll divide both sides by 80, and then we get x equals 50. Okay, so we just figured out that there are 50 pieces of fruit in the basket. Okay, so that answer seems reasonable, right? If there are 50 pieces of fruit in the basket altogether, and 40 of those pieces of fruit are tangerines, then it sounds like most of the fruit is tangerines. And that's what we said over here, where we said 80% of the fruit are tangerines. 80% is most of the fruit, right? So hopefully this answer does seem reasonable. Okay, and keep in mind that is just 50. We were looking for the number of tangerines. We were not looking for the percent here. We already had the percent, which was 80%. So don't say 50% here as the answer. It's just 50 for this problem. Now for the now let's do the equation strategy. The equation strategy is we're going to write part equals percent times whole. And what do we know here? 40 was the part. That was the part of the basket that was filled with fruit, tangerines. Let me get my fruit basket there. There, it's so nice, right? I like having it there just to look at it. Let's see here. So the 40 would go over here. The percent was 80%. Now, when you're using the equation strategy, you need to write the percent as a decimal. Now, 80% literally means 80 over 100, and 80 divided by 100 is 0.8. Okay, to divide something by 100, you just take the decimal point and move it 2 spaces to the left. So that would give us 0.8 or 0.8. So let's write 0.8 here. We could write, since there's a 0, 0, we could write 0.80. We could write 0.800 for that matter, because after the decimal point, if we have zeros at the end, they don't change the value of the number. But I usually just leave zeros if they're at the end of a decimal. I just usually leave them out. Okay, so we have 0.8 times the whole, but the whole is what we're looking for, so we'll just put an X over there. And if you don't want to confuse this X, which represents a multiplication, with this X, which is the whole number of tangerines that we're looking for, then instead of writing the multiplication as an X, we can write a dot to represent multiplication, that's usually done so you don't confuse it with this X over here. So now the last step here is going to be to solve for X. So we have X times 0.8. So to get rid of that 0.8, we need to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So we will divide whatever we do to one side. We have to do the same thing to the other. So on this side, we have now just X. And then on the other side, we have 40 divided by 0.8, which would give us 50. Okay, you can either do that by hand or you could use a calculator to do 50 divided by 0.8. Okay, so we get the same answer here that we got here, where it's just a different strategy. And finally, let's move on to the operation strategy. All right, this, by the way, was not the operation strategy. That was just me telling you that to turn a percent into a decimal, we move the decimal point 2 spaces to the left. The operation strategy for a find the whole problem is this. To find the whole, divide the part by the percent, with the percent written as a decimal. And that's really where that comes from, is that's exactly what we do when we solve the problem using the equation strategy. So really the equation strategy is where the idea for the operation strategy comes from. We're just going to take the part and divide it by the percent with the percent written in decimal form. Okay, so we have 40 divided by, remember the percentage was 80%, as a decimal it was 0.8. So 40 divided by 0.8 is 50. So it gives us the same answer that we got before, which makes sense because really, like I said, the operation strategy, the whole idea behind it comes from just looking at the equation strategy and seeing, okay, what is it really that we need to do to get the answer? Okay, so that is it. Ooh, let me get my fruit basket here so you can take one more look at the beautiful fruit basket. And that's it, so have a great day.